So I'm thinking, Simon, if you could help me kind of talk through what it is that I do. You've spent a lot of time with me professionally, and I think that maybe you can help me articulate what it is I do for clients in a way maybe I haven't done it before. Can you help me do that?
Yeah. And I can see why it's a puzzle, because coaching doesn't really fit, therapy doesn't really fit,
I'm
advisor
not a
doesn't
psychologist, really.
fit. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not mentoring.
Yeah. Conciliary is an interesting word, but nobody really knows what it means.
Yeah, it's Italian, and also implies a longer background of relationship, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the speed with which you can spin up is important.
Yeah. It doesn't take me very long to get to understand who are the players in somebody's life, what roles do they play. And so someone can literally text me and I know, like, okay, yeah, I understand what's going on. Whether it's text or WhatsApp or Slack or whatever platform they use, that written ability to just reach out and say, hey, I've got this thing, and spend 5 minutes.
It's a multimodal relationship, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, email, text, phone call, video calls. When you're on board with me, it's whatever format, that's what we figure out. We make it happen.
The other thing that occurs to me is that most of your clients would not have expected to need to work with you.
That's true, because they're not, you don't expect the chaos, whatever that is. Yeah. You don't expect the chaos. There is rare occasions where someone's just like, you know what, I just need someone like you in my life that I can just chat with. So when something like my father went on life support happens, I'm there, I'm up to speed. But most of the time, it's after the chaos has happened and it's just spreading and getting worse that they're like, I need a lifeline. I need a rock in the hurricane.
You might proactively engage with support for the senior executives ahead of time, if you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you just say, I specialize in helping business owners who are going through a divorce survive the process with their head intact? Why don't you just do that?
Just divorce? I don't know. That's an interesting question. It feels limiting for some reason, but maybe it's not, because, when someone comes to me because they're going through a divorce, it's not the divorce they have a lawyer for that. It's all of the chaos around it, and the guilt and the frustration and dealing with the ex and how that goes. And then the ex's new boyfriend or girlfriend and their new boyfriend or girlfriend. And like, you get all these different players and it just gets really, really messy.
And nobody's acting reasonably.
Not usually. Well, not usually in the case of my clients.
And yet your client still has to go into work and perform.
And whether they own the business or they are the executive going into a big corporation, they still have to be able to make it happen. And, having been divorced myself a couple of times, which, you can say, oh, that's failure, but actually, I always did a good job of getting out of bad situations. I can speak to the disappointment and the loss of losing what you thought it was, as opposed to what it actually was. And so then when you get out of it, you're like, oh, but what if I could make it XYZ thing? And then I can't tell you how many times I'll say to someone, is that real? Could you create what you're thinking about with the person you were married to? Or is that a fantasy that you wish it was?
And that's where I see, you don't shove my nose in it, but you understand the psychology too. So it's kind of like you've read all the textbooks, got the doctorate, yay. That gives you a level of a foundation when talking about human behavior. You're not just doing sort of wafty oh, wouldn't it be nice if, or have you thought about such and such? It's like, no, I've seen the movie before. There's some theory around this. This is not going to change. And that's, and again, your clients they're going to have a measure of success, and probably that measure of success comes from being quite good at managing technical things, or at least, and there's nothing worse for me, drives me absolutely crazy with some coaches. They sort of come out with this fluffy thing and you sort of prod it, because that's what you do as a technical manager. Somebody gives you something, you prod it and go, how reliable, how real is this? How well thought through is this? And quite often it all falls apart because they bought some stupid coaching wheel or something from some website. Whereas you'll take me all the way down to this theory, which is useful, you know.
It's the difference between, here's a shiny box with all these fun and fluffy ideas in it, and if you get in it, it'll be perfect for you. And life is not a shiny box. I have all kinds of tools, and when something comes up, I will say something, and you can either say, yes, that's a good idea, let's go down that path, or you can say, that doesn't resonate with me, let's look at something else, and then I can do something else.
Actually, yeah, I've never managed to knock you off your stride, actually.
Do you try?
Well, I'm not compliant, am I?
No, you're not compliant.
You know, and I think a lot of people, when they put themselves in a position of advising other people about how to live their lives, tend to be comfortable in a fairly narrow box. If you don't follow the script, if you don't follow the plan, they very quickly get uncomfortable. Yeah,
I have a colleague who is a grief coach, but she only deals with the grief and not the impact.
How does that work?
And you're asking me a question I can't answer. I don't know.
Okay.
But grief isn't something that's, okay, this is how I feel right now, and I'm going to deal with that. It has all these little fingers that go out through your life. And if you don't manage that, then you're not managing the situation, as far as I'm concerned. But I'm not a grief counselor or grief coach.
I think you probably are, but
well,
you know what I mean?
I have worked with people who have grief, but that's not, I certainly
but it's only one aspect of the problem.
That.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's the thing. You're a whole product, to use a marketing term, but you're a whole product person. If you will solve the problem that people have, not deliver the fragment of an offering that, and then allow them or cause them to have to figure out the rest of it too.
One of the easiest things to do is go into somebody's emotional attic and unpack their emotional box and just all the stuff out, and then show them an empty box and say, oh, look, it's fixed. And what you haven't done is dealt with all the stuff.
No, it's worse. They go, oh, that bit there I can deal with. So we're going to work on that bit. And the 10 other things that are lying around festering and causing all sorts of problems, as you were saying with your sort of work coach, it's like, no, it's just work. Because it never is just one thing, is it? It's always a mix of stuff.
And it disappoints me when I see coaches go in and start doing therapy or anything that looks like therapy, even if they don't call it that, where they're poking around in people's past and they're saying, oh, well, that's caused by such and such. I'm like, where did you get that? It sounds brilliant, but did you read that somewhere, like as a snippet of information? Because that makes no sense.
We're back to all coaches are rubbish, aren't we?
Which is where you sit all the time.
Well, I have evidence. I'm not sort of,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I would like it to be different.
And that's the challenge, is if all coaches are rubbish, how do you stand out in a deep pool of shallow people? That's, it's tough.
You don't use the word because it's invalid anyway. You just focus, successful people who are in crisis. Generally crisis of not their own making. One of the things about being accomplished is you've generally given it your all. If you are, say, running a company, you are running the company as best you can. And it requires the very best of you to keep you where you are. And then something happens and you don't have any more horsepower. And you probably haven't got the resources because your life has been optimized for running the company in whatever way. And staying healthy and all that sort of thing. And I think hopefully, certainly from my perspective, I've been doing this 20 years. My life is optimized for running this company as it is. And then when something comes from left field and really knocks you, I didn't need that tool set in my tool shed for, because I'd never seen that situation before. Right. And you just seem to have a an array of skills and an attitude, and also it takes a lot to wander into, I don't tend to use the word chaos, but sort of extreme stress and be able to operate safely. Most coaches are used to steady state and will probably just run away and say you need to see a therapist. And of course, the therapist is going to look at it and go, I'm not touching this. This is, you've got mostly work problems here. You need to go and see a coach.
Or the therapist is going to sit you on a couch and say, well, how do you feel about that?
Okay.
Which is, nice. Maybe not helpful, but nice. So one thing we haven't touched on, which I would love to get your opinion on, is the competitive athlete background that I have. How do you think that influences, if at all?
All right. The devil in me is like, it's a delightful aspect of your character when I can see you finding a challenge to overcome, and it's like, okay, right, okay. So I enjoy that. I don't know is the answer. I mean, yeah, you got good at something, and the people you work with have also got good at something.
There's a part of me that wonders if, so you've heard me say this, that I have the 3 times rule. You're allowed to come complaining about the same thing 3 times before I'm just going to say, look, either do something about it or stop complaining and accept it. Anything else is madness. And I wonder if that is the athlete in me that's like, fix it or get out of the way.
No, that is your life experience.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I know a fair bit about your backstory. You've been public about it on podcasts and that sort of thing. Bloody hell. Even though you could look at my backstory and go, poor Simon and stuff like that. You have been through stuff that I have no idea how that is possible in the world. And you are where you are, rather than being a puddle of a mess, sort of in a trailer, drinking and feeling sorry for yourself. And I think that attitude is part of that. When you offer me that kind of feedback, you're not, if you were saying it from a professional athlete, I'd probably get a bit pissed off with you. Because it's kind of like, you're just, trying to coach me, rather than my inference about where you come from there is, Simon, I've been here before. Let me tell you, this is not going to get any better. At any point, and I think you said it to me, she said, at any point you can make a different decision, and you don't sit there and judge me. You just kind of wait, and then we go, oh yeah, all right, okay. You just sort of kind of point. The door is there. Any point you could leave the situation, or you can make something different. But I'm not going to put any pressure on you. It's going to take you time to do it, and however long that takes is up to you. And
we'll go around the circle, past the door as many times as you want.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's just your personal history. And I know that not only are you're Robyn, but you're also in a system of 8 siblings, 7. There's 8
7 siblings. There's 8 of us total.
Okay, who have all been through a similar process or similar sort of background and system together, and you are still in that. You're still all talking to each other, and that's intact. So you have not only been through that process before, but you've helped your siblings through that process. They're all their different stages and all that sort of thing. So I think that probably brings that and everyone else you pick up and chat to along the way in your life, that brings a fair amount of wisdom.
I have always been that person that people came to. I have that trusting type face, I guess. Like when I worked in corporate and one of the other managers walked in with one of his employees who was sobbing, and he said, can you talk to her? Her boyfriend just held a gun to her head for 2 hours. And left her in my office. And I remember thinking, I'm the technology manager. It's before I ever went to college. I didn't know anything about psychology, but I did. I sat there and I talked to her, and I even went to the apartment and we hid the guns, and I helped her get her clothes and helped her move out. And that's just kind of, I don't know, jump in, do it, fix it, make it better.
Yeah. And you've been doing that since you were a kid.
Yeah.
So the pro athlete stuff, I mean, it's nice. It's interesting. And it's interesting to talk to you about the psychology of performance and that sort of thing. And it caused you to go and do a bunch of theory and that sort of thing, which I bump into, and it's enjoyable talking to, but I didn't change you as a person, I don't think.
Interesting. Well, I think this has been super helpful. Hopefully we can edit it in some way that makes sense.
Go on, don't edit it. Go on, dare you. Just put it up.
Just here's a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Who's going to watch a half hour of us just blathering? I don't know.
People who want to get to know you.
You think so?
Well, if I'm considering engaging with you and whatever, and I know you do the sort of powerful conversation thing, which is that's your first step, but maybe this is the step before the powerful conversation.